Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Premier League presentation. I'm Blaze, pringing you guys a game between paiN Gaming and Team Empire. This is going to be an awesome best of 3 series to continue on through our week. This is just going to be one of those awesome matches that we get to look towards and see what these unique and powerful teams can bring to the table. Specifically, the paiN has had a little bit of down on their luck, some of issues with paiN occasionally and things along those lines. Brazil being very, very region locked comparatively to areas like Russia. It's difficult to get the ideal servers here, but we'll try to work around that as best we can. And from there, we'll try to bring you guys some excellent Dota. It's just been a great week so far, but we have had some issues here and there, and we're hoping to just keep on moving in the right direction. So we're going to get on into the draft without further ado, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. So, we do see right off the bat that the Team Empire is going to be banning out the Batrider. We have paiN Gaming taking off the board the Undying and the Magnus. This does leave open the Wisp and the Nyx Assassin as well as the Keeper Light. Team Empire only able to ban out one of those, has to kind of pick and choose here what they're going to give to the enemy. Now, paiN Gaming does have the first pick, so they have the pick of the litter in that sense, but I think it might be a smart move from Team Empire to leave out all three, so that if one gets picked up by paiN, the other two are on the board for Empire. But, of course, there's a lot of different ways to play this draft. Could just ban out the Darkseer right now and make sure that they don't have to worry about that painful, very frustrating offlaner.
5 seconds remaining. Reserve time.
Alright, so we looks like everything is smooth on the stream. Yeah, I am solo today, so that's just something to keep in mind. I'm gonna bounce back and forth, but try to make sure that focus is here on the cast itself. So what we're looking at, we do see the Wisp ban coming out for Team Empire, and they're going to immediately pick up the Nyx Assassin themselves. I'm curious to see if the Keeper Light does come out at all. The Nyx can, if in a 3v3 situation, just carapace up every single Illuminate to really bring the hurt to Keeper Light. However, Keeper Light is also one of those heroes that is instrumental in keeping the mana flowing from the fact that Nyx Assassin will continually pour out that mana burn. If you counteract the Chakra Magic for any target that gets mana burn done up, then essentially Nyx is just running a very inefficient nuke, and that can be very easily dealt with. So that's kind of what we're looking at there, and I'm curious to see how we're going to go and proceed on through. So we do see Darkseer being picked up, presumably for Funnick. Just has one of the best offlaners in the Western scene, 100%, and I can't wait to see what he can pull out of the bag with this one here. A lot of times we're actually seeing more of a meta shift towards 3.510 lanes, where they completely abandon the offlane and just have a super secure, safe lane with jungle, and from there just try to control half of the map at the very least, and just completely seed one of the lanes here. Curious to see if that's what they're going to do, if they're going to say, okay, Funnick, do what you can, try to survive, and if Nyx Assassin is the only opponent that you're going to have to worry about as far as lane presence goes, then you'll be generally okay. But on top of that, there can be plenty of different options there. Maybe something like a Rubik or a Disruptor can be very, very frustrating to deal with. But we do see the Gyrocopter picked up, and I love that pick in general early on. Gyrocopter is a very flexible hero, whether you want to put him in the mid lane, you want to actually run him as the hard #1 carry, or even just run him as a support. Ake from No Tidehunter does that all the time, and it can be very effective. But in turn, we're going to see the Rubik picked up for paiN Gaming, and that is going to set them up on the right foot to actually dish out the damage they want to through stealing the call down, stealing the vacuum, and deliver a lot of hurt. Along with that, Lifesteal is going to be picked up. Now, there's a couple different ways that paiN Gaming runs the Lifestealer. Sometimes they have had the Pada pick him up as a kind of a jungle lifestealer or just some other secondary farmer that will still be a core hero late game, but he just kind of isn't prioritized in general. But they have had ways where they can kind of do a little bit of a steamroll train. As soon as he gets a couple kills on the board, maybe an early armlet will set that up for him. He'll be able to dish out a lot of damage and start moving in towards a steamroll mode. From there, as far as the current picks and how Lifestealer fares against them, he's not going to get disabled by anything in particular once he's in that rage state. However, the Surge will be able to kind of nullify the open wounds detriment, so that they can just speed on away and get out of his clutches there. And that means they're gonna rely a lot on Nyx Assassin and Rubik to get the disables off and set him up for success. So that'll be pretty interesting here. Beyond that, the Night Stalker picked up for Team Empire. This is going to be a very, very interestingly paced game. It's going to be much more dynamic, much more active, and generally speaking, we see Scandal on the mid lane there, so I'm hoping to see Scandal in that Night Stalker, and my oh my, would that be very, very dynamic and aggressive coming out of their lineup here. So this is going to be pretty awesome one way or another, but presumably that means Gyrocopter is going to be picked up by Blow Your Brain on the top lane, Funnick, Darkseer on the bottom, and Scandal, Night Stalker on the mid. And then from there, they're going to pretty much bide their time, get a little bit of farm here and there until 6 minutes hits. And as soon as that happens, just gloves are off, they go on and just try to go all over the map, try to have tons of presence, tons of control. The one issue with Night Stalker going up against a Nyx Assassin, it's a very defensive support. If you do any damage to the Nyx Assassin, he can carapace you, and then from there also drop off the Impale. And the same thing with the Gyrocopter. He's going to flat cannon and call down, and actually his damage sources are a lot less controllable. It has to hit everything that you've seen in AoE and whether or not you want that target to be struck. So when you add in a max carapace plus a max Impale, that's 5+ seconds of disable that really hurts a hero like Gyrocopter prior to getting a BKB. And so it's a difficult hero to fight against, but one way or another they're going to make it work. So that's their intention anyways. paiN Gaming going to ban out a lot of powerful early game supports that Silent would be drafting up, specifically the Bane, the Enchantress, and the Shadow Demon. All three of those heroes just really powerful in Silent's hands, and they don't want to have to deal with that. They don't want to be completely aggravating the laning phase to the point that they have to completely give up on and just hide underneath their towers as the enemy roams on through. So this is really good for them.
10 seconds.
And the reason that they did this is because those three heroes share one thing in common. They're great to set up kills. The Nightmare on the Bane, the Disruption on the Shadow Demon, and to some extent the Enchant on the Enchantress, all slowing down or pulling them to a halt so that they can get into a position where they can just dish out a ton of damage, or max rank rocket barrage coming out of Gyro, etc. We'll set it up so they can just completely 100-0 somebody just by pulling them out of position for a few extra seconds. But in the meantime, Team Empire is actually going to be banning out a couple of interesting heroes. And Nature's Prophet and Lone Druid could be considered on off-lane options for paiN Gaming, taken off the board here. And along with that, the Keeper Light taken out just because it's such a powerful hero and it's not something you want to deal against. They want to put the pressure out, and if a big Illuminates hits the team right when they're about to go in and dive under a tower, it's going to be a lot less favorable for them. So it's something to watch out for, and wisely something to ban out if they don't intend to draft it up themselves, which is kind of surprising, but they don't have second pick, so it's not really, I mean, they have second pick, sorry, they don't have first pick, so they probably wanted it for themselves, but not going to get that option here, and they're just going to proceed on through. Okay, just make sure it looks like audio is good in every regard, and if anybody's having some issues, just let me know. Try to get to that as quickly as possible. But beyond that, we do see that we're just kind of waiting on out for paiN Gaming and seeing what they want to draft up here. They have their pretty much, essentially if they want to run the Lifestealer as a #1 hard carry, they have their defensive tri-lane all set up. Rubik, Nyx Assassin, Lifestealer, great defensive tri-lane heroes, but with the Chen pickup, we might see something a little bit different. We have 2 supports and kind of a pseudo support. Rubik and Nyx Assassin can both play mid very effectively, but the question is to what end? Are they going to run the Nyx Assassin on the mid lane just to try to shut down that Night Stalker early with his massive lane presence? Or are they going to try to have Rubik be a little bit more active in getting that level 6 early on? Because if they can get a spell steal on something such as Night Stalker's Void, when he hits level 7 early on, that's a big nuke to take out of their hands and throw right back at them. 335 damage is ridiculous. And that's probably something they're going to be looking into. So they want the Rubik spell steal up and active early. Along with that, the Chen has the option of getting that Hand of God or just a simple test of faith to pull somebody out of a really bad spot. Along with that, a Night Stalker is great for shutting down casters with his Crippling Fear, but you can't, well, you can technically, but you don't want to have to silence up a Centaur or a Hellbear. Those kinds of things, they're creeps that are going to be able to disable you, generally speaking. Same with the Troll Summoner, but it's not something that you generally are going to commit a single target disable to. So with that, Chen will be able to get some disables off with the controlled neutrals, maybe put some pressure out on mid with an early Wild Wing spawn, and try to make sure that the Night Stalker isn't having as easy of a time as he starts roaming around and controlling the early game, because that's what Chen's all about, is making sure that he can push down towers a little bit aggressively, and with the Keeper Light off the field, they're going to do that rather effectively. So we do see in turn the Luna come out for a Team Empire, and that shifts a little bit what they're going to do with the Gyrocopter. I don't think they're going to go for an aggressive tri-lane, but they do have, I would call, almost 4 core heroes. Gyrocopter is probably going to have to play as a support and just go for maxing his skills, not prioritizing farm, so that the Luna, Night Stalker, and Darkseer can kind of take it away. But for our conclusion, we do see paiN Gaming running out their lineup with one of the few offlane heroes left on the board here, the Bounty Hunter, getting picked up. And although later on the Night Stalker or Darkseer are great Gemma True Sight carriers, early on they don't really have, Team Empire doesn't have a easy #5 that'll just spam out sentries and control and make sure that he's off the lane and not getting the experience he needs. So with that, we're going to see, it might be a little bit delayed, but a bounty hunter will inevitably hit that level 6, move in for a track, and try to get some momentum shifting with every single kill. Even if you get even exchanges, when there's tracks on the field, it's actually favoring your team. It's actually giving you more gold and getting more in the money in the pocket of Lifestealer, Rubik, Nyx Assassin. They love survivability items, so that'll work out for them too. So in general, this idea, this whole aspect of things, Chen taking a tower early, Bounty Hunter getting tracks on the field, the idea is paiN Gaming getting a lot of money built up across the entire team to deal with Team Empire's very gank-heavy lineup. An Eclipse in the jungle, Night Stalker roaming around at night, those kinds of things are big about pickoffs. And if they're looking at level 4 supports without any cash, sitting on regular boots and maybe a magic wand, completely annihilating them. But one thing to see is that Funnick is actually going to pick up the Windrunner, and they're going to possibly run the Darkseer in the jungle. I mean, he definitely shouldn't be in a trialing situation, so I'm curious to see. But yeah, Godblack is going to pick up that Darkseer, and that changes up their lanes quite a bit, but I'm curious to see how they're going to maneuver with that. So, again, looks like everything should be good. Cool. Alrighty then, so we do see Grent, their mid player, generally speaking, picking up the Rubik, but based on his item builds, I don't think that's going to be what they're looking at. He's going to be heading out very supportively with all these consumable pickups, and Billy is going to be picking up that Chen himself, going for early smoke, and then they're going to send up instead Fuga on the offlane there, and make sure that he can sustain as best as possible with some counter sentries to make sure that he's not going to get locked down too hard. Klotz is going to be the stand-in that picks up the Lifestealer, farming away with plenty of regen available, and it's actually going to be King RD, Pickaxe Assassin on the mid, and he has run mid a couple times throughout the tournament as well, so this will be pretty interesting. However, Funnick, starting off with Boots of Speed, getting pooled up, no, actually committing all his resources to just a single branch and a Tango, so he's going to get going with that and try to survive as best he can, and generally speaking, he won't have too much trouble there. The biggest issue is going to be telekinesis, the Impale not being there because the Nyx is going to be on the mid, means that the Chen doesn't really, has to get a troll and summoner if he's going to be able to lock him down at all, but generally speaking, Funnick is just going to be able to poke and prod, use his mana pool effectively to get some last hits, and just kind of work around it from there. So we do see Godblack in that jungle already with that Stout Shield, and he is just going to be farming away while Scandal moves in towards that mid. And the reason for that is Night Stalker is such a great hero on the mid lane. He has a lot of potential when he gets levels early, especially if he gets to that rank 2 Darkness, hits level 11 really early on, before that, right when that second Night comes out. That's the potential of the Night Stalker, where he can extend Night so long, and the Hunter in the Night, accompanied with all of his abilities really, will really make him much more potent during the nighttime phase. Now we do see Fuga roaming on around, but starting off, he actually is going to block off a couple of their spawns for 3 full minutes with this Sentry Ward placement here, and that means that Godblack is going to have a much harder time than he intended. He just wanted a free, easy jungle. Instead, he finds absolutely no creeps to meet him here. So he could sentry these down, but for the moment he realizes both camps are gone, and he's fairly certain who's responsible for that. So in the meantime, this is going to be a melee versus melee mid. King RD starting off with that mana burn. It deals based on their base intellect, which Night Stalker has a bit of here and there, especially with the +3 stats that he acquired from the branches, but it still allows Scandal to get a couple of voids off, and from there he's going to make sure that he can get some last hits here and there. As long as he gets a bottle at a relatively good time, both of these heroes are going to be in a relatively good spot. Can't say the same for Fuga though. With this Observer Ward coming out from the Dire, as well as the fact that Fuga has been roaming around the jungle this whole time, he's not going to get all that much experience. He's actually just going to try to creep jack a little bit and roam on around, but he can get caught out rather effectively. So we do see Silent playing support on this Gyrocopter as they just let the Luna farm, but we kind of see the same exact thing going down on bottom lane with Klotz picking up plenty of last hits for himself. Both heroes likely to go for a very early Midas. So that's something to keep in mind. If they get the Midas, they'll be able to really help their experience and gold gains right off the bat, but I don't think that that's going to be as big of an impact as we see these very gank-oriented mid-heroes. That's where the big things are going to be happening, is when King RD and Scandal start roaming around, start picking up runes, and actually have their ultimates available, so that they can just be extremely aggressive and extremely active in every single lane that they move on to. For now, though, we're going to look at Godblack heading up towards the top and just helping out with the pulls right now. He's pretty much just playing a supportive Darkseer, which obviously isn't where you want to be at, meaning that you're not going to have your ranks in vacuum anytime soon, and your team fight is going to be hurting because of it. Meanwhile, Billy having a perfectly fine time in the jungle, but for right now he's not really having an impact on the lanes, doesn't need to. There is nobody down here except for Funnick, who's just actually stacking and actually beating down on these Ancients, using the Boots of Speed mobility to make sure they doesn't take too much from that. First rune of the day goes to King RD, the double damage here, and that'll help him get some good action moving on through in the mid and get some extra last hits here and there. Speaking of last hits, we're looking at 15 CS on the Lifestealer and 12 CS on the Luna. There is not really too much direct confrontation, so that's not too much of a surprise that they're pretty well on top of things, but 2.5 minutes in, sitting at 17 CS, that is fine and dandy for that Lifestealer to keep moving towards bigger and better items really early on. So we'll see Klotz staying on top of that very effectively. And again, Fuga still having some issues. Compare the Darkseer's offlane experience to the Bounty Hunters. It's not much better, but it is a little bit better for him. So the level 6 is going to come out for the Darkseer sooner. We do see actually a lot of damage coming in from King RD with that Impale. He gets 3 extra auto attacks, maybe a 4th, from that double damage. And yeah, that means that he gets effectively 6 auto attacks based on the fact that there's no plus and damage items on the board. So he really harassed back Scandal, forcing him out to Bottle Crow, and that is one interesting colored Greeble, sending out, playing the role of the Milkman here. Do see some Sentry Wards for the Dire right off the bat. Empire wants to control Fuga, and we'll have to see how it works out for them. But for the moment, it seems like it's exactly as I was saying. They're just going to hold the line. The only real direct confrontation is going to stay on the mid lane here, except on the bottom where they do see the flank. There is the Summoner Troll passing off that ensnare. Nice touch of face. Rubik gets the first blood with that Fade Bolt. Good movement there. They pin Funnick back, and although he does get that wind run off at the end, he is still sitting at level 2 and really can't do too much. So that Dark Scroll Trumbler plus the Telekinesis really helped them there. Wind run's still available, but Funnick taking a few hits here and there, trying to force him off the tower. If he can get a good power shot off, he at least won't have to worry about the Troll Summoner's tank ability on this tower, but it's still taking a few hits, dropping down over around 400 HP, and he's going to have to work if he wants to keep this alive. This is just not the position he wants to be in. Darkseer dying to neutrals, possibly intentionally. No, I actually just missed it up by a few CS, and now we see the fortification come out for paiN Gaming. So they go on through to finish this off. Power shot does hit on Klotz, but it looks like it will inevitably fall. They're just delaying it, but it's going to drop in the end, and it's going to go the way of Rubik. So they're farming up Grant quite a bit here with that first blood, and with that tower kill, he's going to jump up to 300 gold per minute, despite having probably 0 CS, 4 CS. So a little bit here and there, but not much at all. Meantime, things are looking up for paiN as the lanes have pushed out. Now Fuga's going to get some dedicated experience, while the Darkseer, Godblack, dying to neutrals, unfortunately, just underestimating their potential and not getting a couple of block procs on that Stout Shield. Kind of unfortunate for him. Back on the mid lane, we do see that Nyx Assassin is just farming up, aggressively pushing out the lane a little bit here and there, and trying to make Scandal's life a living hell, but that will only be for a short while longer, because at the 6-minute mark, that is when Night Stalker is going to have that much more potential, and soon probably will have level 2 Hunter the Night available, so that'll be very effective for him, along with that Magic Wand, which is an interesting pickup for a Night Stalker, but in this situation, I can definitely understand it. You're going up against a Nyx, a Rubik, and a Chen, a lot of spells going back and forth, and it can definitely help him there. It just keeps him sustained. In the meantime, Funnick is finally going to get the farm that he's been looking for, as this tower has fallen, and now the wave is generally pushed out in his favor. So let's look back at experience for a minute. It's a really great, accurate representation of how the jungle is going for these different heroes, and we see that Luna is actually topping out with the fact that the supports have not been leeching too much experience from her. But we also see that as far as junglers go, that the Darkseer is actually now on top of things. With that rank 3 Iron Shell available, he's just been back and forth, able to actually get some really, really good AoE damage, and that's just going to keep on going through. Nighttime does pop off, but King RD is going to be able to pick up that rune as well as his Arcane Boots to stay very, very active. This meta, no trouble at all. However, I did actually miss a kill here. The Homing Missile and Lucent Beam as well as the Eclipse popped off to make sure that Blow Your Brain could actually bring down an over-aggressive Fuga. He just went a little bit overextended, and I thought he played a little bit safer. That's why I didn't catch the kill, but unfortunately he just got caught out there, and that Sentry Ward, well worth it to make sure that they can take him off the board, and he's still sitting at around level 4, moving towards level 5 to try to catch up with, I don't know, Funnick is pretty much the same situation here. So, back to back, a little bit of mirror there. But Godblack is inevitably getting the farm that he needs, and that's going to be really, really helping them stay forward in this. For right now, though, Night Stalker is kind of relegating himself to farming on the mid lane. He doesn't go for a Hunter the Night rank 2 for potency. He just goes for the duration, extending the night out with his ultimate picked up at level 6, which that's just kind of two different options. It's a flavor of choice, whether you want it to be longer or more effective. It's really just two different, very valuable options, but the fact that he's using this time to farm creeps is not where they exactly want to be. Now, the smoke has expired for these two Chen creeps. Funnick has to know something's up. He is going to walk right on into it, though. They put up the telekinesis into the Centaur Clap, and they just burst him down before he has any chance to win run on out. Scandal wants to help out, but it's too little too late, and he's just going to fall right back onto the mid lane. So we do see that King RD is going to be able to pick up Magic Wand for himself. He's going to take a few hits left and right, but Scandal is just throwing away his mana for the moment. He really needs this 8-mana rune if he wants to stay active. And we do see that Gyrocopter is coming in to help out a little bit. Silent puts up that homing missile on the high ground. They do get the Void off. The Carapace comes on through, but now that it's on cooldown, they can actually play pretty aggressive right here. They're not going to follow through. Don't want to get impaled under the tower, but at least they're going to force King RD back so that they can go for the rune here. The rune is pretty much fully controlled on the top lane, but it is actually going to spawn on the bottom where Scandal makes his way to pick up that regeneration rune. I'm not sure whether or not he is aware. Now he definitely is, as Grant gets the telekinesis off on Funnick. Big test of faith, and Fadebolt. Funnick immediately pops off that wind run as soon as the open winds comes on through, but it's not enough. Takes the last hit. Chen bringing him down, and that Infest helping out just a little bit there, one way or another. Now we do see Scandal rotating on in, but it's just a little too late, and there is some aggression coming out here. They're actually going to pick off the Nyx Assassin. A little overextended, and he does actually pay for it. Having popped off the Vendetta, he tried to get burst on the Gyrocopter, pick off Silent, but he survives, and instead they turn it around. Now we do see Fuga on Galblack, and he's going to be able to bring him down if he has a little bit more burst, but he popped off the Shuriken pretty early there. He popped it before he was out of range, and wasn't able to get the last little bit of damage there one way or another. Oh, wow. So it is 5-2. I don't think any track kills are on the board, but paiN still kind of in the lead right now. 2k advantage because of the tower kill, as well as a couple of extra heroes. But as far as creeps, we are seeing that Luna is currently leading the pack. Had early Midas as well, but we do see a lot of aggression going on to him, trying to shut him down. And it looks like it'll be enough. The track movement speed providing a lot of potential for them, and they're just going to be able to finish him off. Track money going to Nyx Assassin. Maybe building up a steamroll item such as a Dagon, or maybe just something more effective for utility, such as a Blink Dagger or Necronomicon. We'll have to see. A couple of observer wards placed on both sides, but there was that ping coming out, indicating that I think they're aware of this fact. They do get the Void off on Scandal, so they have a rank, like I said, a rank 4 Void has a lot of damage to come on out, and they can do a lot with this here. Speaking of, they're going to go through with this. Oh, they're going to telekinesis him back on in, get the Impale, big stuns coming through, the Hellbear to clap, and they're going to burst him down in time. Really, really nice usage of the Void and all their cooldowns, and Silent doesn't have too much to offer to try to defend this tower. So that was just a really quick burst, and with this Wild Wings aura of +3 armor, they're actually going to be able to put a lot of pressure out here. If only they had Basilius, that would really be good for them. Either way, Arcane Boots will help them stay sustained, so they can keep on outputting some big damage, but having to micro this a little bit because of the Ion Shell. So Funnick picking up on farm a little bit. Needs to get something a little bit more than the phase boots though. Maybe making his way towards a Magic Wand, TP, Force Staff, what have you. A lot of different options, but looks like King RD is going to be able to use this Impale to set up a kill on Silent, picking him up. They just a little bit more burst, and Rubik has the kill. So no track there, but they don't really need it. They're just staying on top of them and dominating as far as kills and deaths go. So Empire playing a little bit overextended and not coordinating as a team. Individually, they're playing really nicely, like Blow Your Brains Eclipse up on top lane, as well as his individual farm staying on top of things. But as you can see, just over and over, there have been some pickoffs that they could have been prevented with just a little bit more coordination, but it's not worked out for them thus far. In the meantime, we do see Goblack going to be farming through, and with those Strength Boots making his way towards plenty of different items, but I would presume a mechanism would be on his shopping list. We do see that coming out pretty soon for Billy on the Chen, farming away in the jungle here. He only actually needs 220 gold to finish that on out, and getting some really great spawns, I gotta say. Like, there's not been a sour one in the bunch, whether it's Trolls or the Ursos, sorry, Hellbears. They're just all over the place. He keeps on getting some really good summons, so a little bit of luck there. Funnick getting picked off here. They rotated on around, and they were able to pick him off. Just really good movement from King RD on that Nyx Assassin, always where he needs to be, finding those pickoffs and bringing him down. So that was really good movement here. Sentry Ward comes out onto Fuga though. Scandal wants to try to bring him down, and with this, oh no, they don't have any way of interrupting it. No, he is gonna be bursted down just barely. They could not interrupt it, so they're like, screw it, we'll put out the maximum amount of damage. And with this rank 4 rocket barrage and a very high burst of that Lucent Beam, they were able to finish the job. So nice for them. But in the meantime, Klotz is still farming away on the bottom, and they want to try to put pressure out on him to try to force him out. Funnick is being initiated on right here. Has to pop off the wind run immediately, but the telekinesis comes on through, and they burst him before the chance, using this Void to great effect. Rubik's stealing that Void early on. He's used it so many times over, and it has really changed the pace of this early game, as it's such a powerful nuke. Now they're going in. They took down the tier 2 on bottom. Nyx Assassin gets his blink out of that, and now King RD is helping the Chen push out on the mid, using that buckler to great effect, and soon this should be taking a fall, but we do see this exchange. Grant throwing away Scandal, and from there, invisibility popped off outside the sight of wards, so they don't know this, but he's going to try to go for a deny possibly. Not enough time, so he's just going to be stalking up for a little bit, stalking in the night, but they need to rotate on in with this Eclipse, and there's so many Chen neutrals to tank things up. But Grant gets bursted down first. They lose the Void. Now going on to King RD, but he does pop out that Carapace Vendetta, running for the hills, and the Urn not going to really change his fate. So that was effective enough. The Hand of God keeps everybody sustained, and although they did lose the Rubik, they got the Tier 1 tower as well as the Tier 2 on bottom, and paiN are still in a really, really good place in this game right now. So as far as the Drum of Endurance should be finished for Luna, yeah, already on the courier, which means she still has 850 extra to move in towards presumably a Yasha really early on. However, Daybreak strikes, and Daywalker is not nearly as effective. Actually pop his ultimate just to get on out of here. We do see a Blink initiation onto Goblak, and he's going to get bursted down before he can get on out. So it's a nice dodge of the Shackle Shot. It means they can still initiate on Scandal, bringing him down, and they're going to be looking for Funnick, who's just going to Windrun away. And it looks like Windrun was stolen, but I don't think Grant can do too much with that. However, that Blink Impale says otherwise. King RD closing in the distance and able to bring him down. Looking for more on Blow Your Brain. They do get a rank 1 open wounds off. Will it be enough, though? They have the damage output, and they're going to bring him down at the steps of his own base, just walking on in. Could care less, and they got so much out of that. They got multiple tracks off. I think almost all those were track kills, and they just followed up, chased them down. And on top of that, the Night Stalker, popping off Darkness right now, has 135 seconds of daytime, 100%. Cannot do anything about that. And the only thing they have to show for it is Silent, split pushing up on the top, and the Tier 2 falls as well. So this is really, really looking bad for Empire. We are seeing that it is moving in towards a 10k gold advantage for paiN, and almost that much as far as the experience. We're looking closer to 7,500, but it's still a very substantial advantage, and they're going to keep this rolling. They're going to try to get bigger and better items. Actually, Silent getting picked off right here, and that is just not what he wants to be looking at. Nyx Assassin going to be able to set this kill up, no problem at all. Quick little burst from those two, and my goodness, those two have a ton of front-loaded damage. With the Janata maxed out, the Shuriken just about as well, and King RD with that mana burn against multiple intellect heroes like the Darkseer and the Windrunner can just burn through their HP pool extremely swiftly, and that Vendetta now being ranked 2 just increases that fact. So really, Empire, all they have to do is try to survive the first like 5 seconds of an engagement, but so on, so forth. It's been that they go on, they get initiated on, and they fall by the wayside and just run for the hills. But unfortunately, they can be chased down so easily with that track, with the increased movement speed, the blink initiation from Nyx Assassin, so on and so forth. They can really, really stay on top of their opponents, and so far that's exactly what's been happening. Setting Klotz up to move in for his armlet, and could pick up just about anything after this with the 1900. Maybe go for Desolator, just to make sure that his burst is there physically. And it does look like Luna is going to go for that Yasha, but it's still a bit of a ways off. So we see that Urn was finished up for Scandal, and he does have his treads as well, but he's just not having the impact that we generally see on a Night Stalker game. Looking at KDA, 1, 2, and 1, I mean, dying as much as you kill or participate in kills is not where you want to be on a Night Stalker. You want to be on the top end of that, and obviously that's just a bad, oh my goodness. Initiating underneath the steps again. Luna has that Eclipse available, but King RD also has that Carapace on a double damage rune. So if that Eclipse pops off, or even a Lucent Beam, King RD can actually counter that out, and Blow Your Brain will be in a really sore spot. So I think he just has to drum away here. And actually, we do see the Infest coming out from the lifesteal. I didn't see that with the pause screen on top of him, but Klotz was actually in there, and with the double damage, couple of right clicks, no trouble at all to finish him off. So I didn't actually catch that there, but yeah, they actually set Klotz for a little bit of a surprise party, infesting on inside the invisible Nyx Assassin and finding out the Luna at the base of her own steps. It's just pretty much in this position where you think that there's one spot that has to be safe on the entire map. You got to think it's this little corner of space that they still have control over, but even that is not under their control if they don't get some sentry wards up fast. And like I said, there's not really a number 5 to just spam out those sentries. A Gyrocopter doesn't have anything but observers, and Windor doesn't have any at all. So no detection coming on out of their lineup, and I can't really blame them. They don't have the draft where they have a monetarily independent support that can just start spamming out consumables left and right. So that's really costing them right here with the Bounty Hunter and the Nyx Assassin just being able to roam out wherever they feel like. And we do see a couple sentries on the map here and there, but it's mostly just to try to control the top lane, which is really the only lane they have. They've lost tier 2s in mid, they've lost tier 2s in bottom, and the final course of action is for paiN to move on towards that top and really, really just take this into their late game. In the meantime, Yeah, Luna will keep on farming. That Midas still allows her to stay on top of things as far as net worth goes, but 6,400 compared to a Nyx Assassin of 6,900 and a Nyx that's 93. It really just makes it so that it's going to be harder and harder. And we do see this TP Infest blinking on in. They're going to be able to close the distance onto Blow Your Brain as fast as he is. I don't think he can get out of this. The stun comes on through from Kinder. No, actually, they popped off the Impale too early. I think they missed it. Blow Your Brain knew that and TP'd on out. Really, really smooth TP from him. That was actually perfect timing for that. They didn't have any way to lock him down. And I think that Lifestealer might just have to make his way towards a Basher to make sure that kind of thing doesn't happen again. Now we do see initiation onto the Gyrocopter. He is tracked up, going to be bursted down, but the Wall Replica finally comes on out. That is going to vacuum on in, but not before Gyrocopter takes a fall. All in call down. They're going to take some hits, but it's not going to be enough. Scandal actually on Half-Life being blocked on in and bursted down for a triple kill for the Chen of all people. Billy taking it down with the Test of Faith and a couple of really, really powerful creeps. The Hellbears and the Centaur just doing work there, and that works out for them as they probably want to make their way towards Roshan. With their mechanism, Roshan will be easy pickings, and although Funnick does have vision of this with the power shot, there's not so much that he can do, and Grant even wants a piece of this. With the Force Staff pulling him back in, they're going to be able to just really lock him down, but a King RD misses that Impale, and that means they're not going to be able to finish the job. Instead, just focusing their mind on the big baddie here. Roche will be dropping pretty quickly and feeding that Life Stealer, that Aegis the Immortal, which will set him up to take the high ground. If they go in 6v5, they can easily fight underneath the tower as long as they have good health, mana, and cooldowns to work with here. Nyx Assassin perches the Dagon. Now that he has his utility through the Blink Dagger, he just wants to add a little bit of salt on the wound, put a little bit of extra pressure out, and anybody that was about to escape his clutches is now going to have to just face demise, as they're going to be burned down with an extra little burst of 400 magic damage. So that's going to set them up in a good way, and we do see actually Mjolnir recipe up on Klotz, so he's going to have plenty of attack speed to work with moving on forward. That's going to be really nice and effective for them. Meanwhile, what can Empire do? They don't have, they have the Drum of Endurance on the Luna, so they're mobile during the nighttime when they have Night Stalker active, but it's been a long time coming to try to get that night. And like I said, generally speaking, you should coincide second night with that Darkness rank 2, and that's not happening here. Along with that, we do see that Darkseer is well on his way to his mechanism, but he's still a long way off. Even if he disassembles Tranquils for the Ring of Regen, it's still going to take a large amount of gold, and we actually see a single 1-for-1 pick-off using that Dagon to bring down the Luna. Just completely picking her off, and there's nothing she can do. Popping off either of her nukes would just be fall on Carapace ears. So that sets it up so that there's really no place safe for her to farm. 111 CS. Blow Your Brain is in an okay position, generally speaking, with the Midas and moving in towards that, presumably BKB. Now they realize that Yasha isn't going to help him whatsoever. But it seems like it's too little too late. 15k, 13k for gold and experience advantages respectively. And from there, Funnick just trying to power shot to keep their final outer tier tower alive. But here come the army of the Chen creeps to completely wash away that notion. Hellbears having a little bit of hug session, but going to get bursted down in the end along with this tower. Lifestealer taking the last hit on this Force Staff, and they're just going to get a steal off on the Surge, which is probably not what they were looking for, but it's still an interesting cooldown that they can use to make sure that Lifestealer can stay very active. He does have some mobility issues, and although the Phase Boots solve some of that, he wants to stay on target, and the Surge will help him a little bit there. So he's just going to Midas that. But other than that, there's really one big issue is their team fight. Darkseer does not have rank 2 wall replica, does not even have rank 3 vacuum. It's very difficult for him to get a good wall vacuum off, and even then they don't have that much health or damage to work with there, being only rank 1. So it's just the initiation from paiN really sets it up so that it's not even a team fight, it's just a massacre. And Nighttime has finally struck. He's extending it with rank 1 darkness, and they do have a Geometry Sight, so this is the fight they need to take if they want to turn this game around. They're in a desperate spot. They go for the Geometry Sight, and if they can counter initiate and catch him off guard, that can help out a ton, but Funnick is the one getting caught off guard here, and instead they're just going to take it 6 versus 4 up on the tier 3 tower here. Call down will help a bit, Flat Cannon as well, but we see only 77 attack damage on the Gyrocopter. Won't do enough here with those Flat Cannon charges going out. Instead, he's just going to get picked off with some Blink Disables, and he can just watch as this tower falls. It's pretty much unfortunate for them, but Claw's going to get Replicant up for the time being, but it's not going to make too much of a difference. Just little glowy Lifestealer going to get stunned on down, and from there, they can just wait out the wall and then take the engagement up on the top lane without having to worry about that. Luna does, however, take the tier 1 down on bottom. That is a little bit of a silver lining on this very, very dark cloud, but they need to keep that action coming. Keep her split pushing. No, the initiation comes out through. Double Impale. Scandal taking a lot of damage. Godblack will fall as well. There was a beautiful shackle going on through from Grant and Fuga, but it's not enough, even with that Eclipse. Just going across and dishing out the damage. The Vacuum 3 was stolen, but Blow Your Brain has dropped out absolutely no one. The Hand of God nullifying all that damage dropped down, and Funnick should take a fall here. So Unstoppable Spree. The racks will fall 26-4. paiN Gaming taking this game convincingly, as Scandal calls the good game well played. So that is pretty much all she wrote on that one. Looking at the net worth, 14.5k on the Lifestealer. The Luna disconnecting on out. We'll just check out her GPM. 420. It's not that bad. It's in an okay position, but she just wasn't able to stay on top of things compared to the high, heavy, aggression, gank-oriented style of paiN. And it's just interesting that the Night Stalker was actually the one that was ganked the most out of this situation. That's usually not the case, but we see that 1-4-1 on the Night Stalker, and Funnick not having a good time on bottom lane there. That was one of their biggest issues, I think, is that there was really no hope for Funnick down the bottom lane. He's a great offlane player, but in that situation, he died at least 2 times over. They lost the tower early, and it just started that shift of momentum that didn't work out for them. If the Bounty Hunter was taken down as much as Funnick was, if Fuga was zoned out just as effectively, then that would have been a completely different story. But Godblack was playing a supportive jungler that had only half a jungle to work with, and that made it so that what we were actually seeing was him getting reduced experience per minute and playing a pseudo support by stacking and pulling without having actual presence on the lane. They only killed the Bounty Hunter once, and that took a full Eclipse to do it. So if they had a disabler, if they had somebody that could pull him out of position, then if they had an actual legitimate lane support like Godblack actually likes to play, then we would be seeing a completely different game where Bounty Hunter was as far behind as the Windrunner. But as it was, the Bounty Hunter got his experience per minute, got the tracks out, and when the teamfights came on through, King RD was able to roam around more proactively than that Night Stalker and was able to take the game. So well played to them. And we're going to move on to Game 2 in just a minute. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the game, but we'll see what's going to happen if Empire is going to be able to match it up 1-1, or if it is going to go to a 2-0 sweep, shutting it out for paiN Gaming. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, I'm Blaze of Premier League, and we'll go on into Game 2 in just a minute.